Hello, beautiful learners. Let's venture together into the other processes of phonology. That is the phonological processes of English language. Remember, phonological processes have to do with how sounds are articulated when they are in the environment of other sounds, as opposed to how sounds are as articulated in isolation. So when you articulate a phoneme independently, it is different from when you articulate the same phoneme in connected speech or in the environment of other sounds. So we had talked about some of the phonological processes, so more of it today. So let's focus on the other processes we have as long as the phonological processes is concerned. We have here insertion. What's insertion all about? It is the addition of sounds to break up different clusters. The addition of sounds to break up different clusters. Remember, when we were considering consonant clusters, we talked about a situation where we have two consonant sounds at the same position of word, can be initial position or final position of word. Then a situation where a vowel sound is inserted in between two clustering consonants. That is when we consider insertion. Insertion can also be called a parenthesis. A typical example is here. We have the word film. In connected speech, you hear people saying film, film. So the sound, the short sound introduced in between this cluster, and gives us insertion. Again, in athletes, you have some persons calling this athletes. Again, some persons pronounce this, especially in connected speech, as prince, prince, introducing the sound t. That means a sound is inserted. So one of the phonological processes we have in English language is insertion, a situation where the sound, a vowel sound that is not there in that word is introduced because of the environment of sound, so as to get the sounds there pronounced properly. All right, so let's look at the second one, metathesis. Metathesis is switching or reordering of sounds within a word. Switching the position or reordering sounds within a word. Let's consider this as an example. The word ask. In connected speech or in fast statements, you hear people saying ask. I want to ask a question. So when you say ask, what is going on there is a switch in the positions of some sounds, which is the k and s. Normally, this word can be transcribed this way and articulated this way, ask. But in connected speech, this is what we hear, ask, ask. That means there is a change in position between the k and the s sound, because the k sound is supposed to come before the s sound. Hence, we call that metathesis, the switching or reordering of sounds within a word. Again, in comfortable, this is comfortable. We can have the introduction of the sound before the t, whereas it is supposed to be the t before the sound. It is comfortable, but in connected speech you hear comfortable. All right, so these are examples of metathesis, which is a phonological process. Another phonological process I would like us to consider is vowel reduction. Vowel reduction, vowel sound, and then reduction. That is a reduction in the feature of a vowel sound. Maybe a long sound turning into a weak short sound. Unstressed vowels are often reduced to a centralized vowel. That is, the centralized vowel here is the schwa sound, which is the sound. For instance, if we consider this expression to go, in connected speech we have to go. But if we want to articulate the words, the sounds in isolation, or we want to pronounce the words in isolation, we have to go. So the oo sound here, which is a long vowel sound, will change its feature and become the schwa sound, which is So we have to go, to go. So it is shortened. That's why this is called vowel reduction. We have many other examples, but because of time, I decided to use only one example. Let's consider more of this. Another phonological process is neutralization. Neutralization. A contrast between two phonemes is lost in certain positions. The contrast means the difference between two phonemes is lost in different positions. So we have final devoicing. For instance, considering these two words, this is bed and bed. Sometimes in connected speech, you cannot differentiate between the two because all you hear is bed, bed, bed. You might not hear the last sound. That's why we call it voicing, voicing. The air sound will overshadow the T sound. So we have bed instead of bed in connected speech. When I say connected speech, I mean when you're speaking fast. Again, we hear this rider, rider, rider instead of writer, writer. So you might not spot the difference between writer and rider. So all you hear is what? Rider, rider. All right, so that is a typical example of neutralization. So this sound is neutralized for us to have this one here, rider. He is a rider, rider instead of writer. Then bed instead of bed. We have also flapping or tapping. The alveolar stops t or d becomes a voiced flap between vowels, majorly in American pronunciation. We have this as borough, borough, ladder instead of butter, ladder. Here, borough, ladder, Siri, Siri, in the Siri. So you have ri instead of t. You have ra instead of the. You have ra instead of ta. So this process is known as flapping. We have also another phonological process known as deletion, or you can call it elision. So deletion process or elision process. As the name implies, it has to do with the omission of a sound segment in certain phonetic environment. We know what segment is. Segment of sound, that is a different phonemes. So when one sound is omitted where it is supposed to be in connected speech, that means that there is a deletion or elision process taking effect there. Example is handbag, handbag instead of handbag. The d sound is elided or deleted or omitted, and this there is assimilation as well. So this nasal sound you change to the bilabial nasal to flow along with this one, and then this one is deleted completely. So we have handbag. Again, in every, we don't have the vowel letter here pronounced. in every. That means it is completely elided or deleted. Also in next day, in connected speech we have next day. So the t sound is elided completely or deleted completely. All right, so let's also look at this very important phonological process. Aspiration is another very important phonological process that students need to pay attention to. Aspiration is the burst of breathy air, a puff of air that follows the release of certain voiceless plosive sounds. I want to say here that this particular phonological process is mainly for certain sounds, only the voiceless plosive sounds, and we have three voiceless plosive sounds in English language, which include p, t, and k. So sometimes we produce this sound with a puff of air, and when that is done, when it is too loud with the puff of air, that means the sound is really aspirated. So we cannot have aspirated form of these sounds in weak syllables. So we have different rules concerning this. So note the word, the expression, a puff of air, burst of breathy air. All right, that counts when you are articulating the sound in words, not in isolation, but in words. Now, I would like you to pay attention to the position we can have aspirated forms of these sounds. However, this is how to indicate aspiration in connected speech, that is in transcription. When you transcribe the words, this is how to indicate aspiration. This symbol that looks like H on top of the sound is the aspiration symbol. All right, so this is the aspirated form of the p sound, t and k. That means the sound is really realized with all forms of audibility. All right, so we have aspiration rules. When do we aspirate and when don't we aspirate? When the voiceless plosives are at the beginning of stressed syllables, when we have any of the voiceless plosive sounds at the beginning of stressed syllables, that is strong syllables. Example, in the word pin, we have the p sound at the beginning, hence it is realized as p with a puff of air. So we have it transcribed this way with the aspiration symbol. Pin, top, cat. So we have the aspiration symbol immediately after the p, t, and k sound, respectively. All right, so that's the first rule. At the beginning of stressed syllable, this is a stressed syllable, pin, top, and cat. Then after initial s sound, when you have the sound at the beginning of a word, then the voiceless alveolar sound, voiceless alveolar plosive sound follows. Then that will not be aspirated. So there is no aspiration when p, t, or k comes after the voiceless s sound. Example, spin, stop, scat. Again, no aspiration in unstressed syllables. In unstressed syllables, in weak syllables, there is no aspiration. For instance, appear, attack. Moreover, There is weak or no aspiration in word final position. When you have it at the final position, you have it in weak form of aspirated sound. For instance, cap, cat, and back. In these words, you have in the transcription the symbol of the aspiration, the symbol of aspiration to indicate that it comes in there as well, but in weak form. So take note of the different phonological processes we have here. We had talked about assimilation, both regressive and progressive assimilation. We had considered other ones before this. So today we've considered aspiration, we've considered deletion, flapping, neutralization, vowel reduction, metathesis, and insertion. So these make up the phonological processes of English language. Do well to note that all these apply when we are considering sounds at the environment of other sounds or in the environment of other sounds and not really in isolation. When we are considering phonemes in isolation, the 44 sounds of English language, they have that different ways of articulation. But when we use them in connected speech, we have different phonological processes because of the influence of one sound on the other. So thank you very much for watching this video. I'd like you to, at this juncture, subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do so, and also like this video, comment, and share it to reach a wider audience. I remain your very own Teacher Dixon.